Have you ever noticed how the calmest person in the room often seems to be the most powerful? Not in a dominating way, but in a way that naturally draws others to them, makes people listen when they speak, and allows them to navigate life's storms with remarkable grace. If you're wondering about the secret behind this phenomenon, stay with me, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to share something that could fundamentally change how you view power and success in your life. What I'm about to share isn't just another motivational talk. It's ancient wisdom that has transformed millions of lives over thousands of years, including my own. And trust me, the insights coming up in just a moment are probably not what you're expecting, but they might be exactly what you need to hear right now. Before we dive deeper, let me share a short story. Picture a scene from ancient India, where a powerful king approached the Buddha, seeking to understand true power. The king, adorned in his finest robes and surrounded by his armies, asked, "What is the source of ultimate power?" The Buddha, sitting quietly under a tree, simply smiled and replied, "The calmest mind holds the greatest power." The king, initially skeptical, would later become one of Buddhism's greatest supporters after experiencing this truth for himself. This ancient wisdom resonates deeply with our modern understanding of power, success, and influence. But here's what's fascinating. While we often chase external sources of power, the most profound source has been within us all along. As the great Buddhist master Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "Calm mind brings inner strength and self-confidence, so that's very important for good health." Think about the last time you were in a crisis situation. Who did you turn to? Chances are, it wasn't the person who was panicking or reacting emotionally. Instead, you probably sought out someone who maintained their composure, someone whose very presence helped you feel more centered and secure. This is no coincidence. It's a demonstration of how calmness naturally translates into authentic power. But what exactly do we mean by calmness? It's not about being passive or emotionless. Rather, it's about developing what Buddhist philosophy calls equanimity, a state of mental calmness and composure, especially in difficult situations. The Buddha described it as being like a mountain, unshaken by the winds of praise or blame, success or failure, pleasure or pain. Consider this. In our hyper-connected, constantly stimulated world, the ability to maintain inner peace has become not just a spiritual pursuit, but a practical superpower. When everyone around you is reacting, the person who can respond thoughtfully and maintain their center becomes a natural leader. As the ancient Buddhist text Dhammapada states, "Better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace." This isn't just philosophical theory. Modern science is catching up to what Buddhist practitioners have known for millennia. Research has shown that people who maintain calm under pressure have better decision-making abilities, stronger relationships, and even improved physical health. Their presence alone can lower the stress levels of those around them, creating a ripple effect of positive influence. Let me share another powerful quote from the Buddhist tradition. The revered Master Dogen wrote, "If you are unable to find the truth right where you are, where else do you expect to find it?" This speaks directly to our topic because many of us believe power comes from external achievements, wealth, status, or influence. But true power, the kind that can't be taken away, comes from our ability to maintain inner peace regardless of external circumstances. Consider how this plays out in everyday life. When you're stuck in traffic, while others are honking and growing, increasingly frustrated, the calm mind sees it as an opportunity for mindful breathing or reflection. When facing a work crisis, while colleagues might be succumbing to panic, the calm mind can assess the situation clearly and identify solutions. This is real power, the ability to choose your response rather than being at the mercy of your reactions. The Buddha taught that our mind is like water. When it's turbulent, it reflects images in a distorted way. But when it's calm, it reflects reality clearly and accurately. This metaphor perfectly illustrates why calmness is such a powerful state. When we're calm, we see situations more clearly, make better decisions, and respond more effectively to whatever life presents. But I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds good in theory, But how do we actually develop this kind of calmness? Well, that's exactly what we're going to explore next, and I promise you, these insights might completely change how you approach your daily life and challenges. Here's the fascinating thing about cultivating calmness. It's both simpler and more challenging than most people imagine. The Buddha taught that every person has the innate capacity for profound inner peace, yet most of us have simply forgotten how to access it. As he said, peace comes from within, do not seek it without. Let me share a personal experience that really drove this point home for me. A few years ago, I found myself in a situation that would typically trigger stress and anxiety. I was facing a major deadline, dealing with technical issues, and managing a team that was on the verge of falling apart. In the past, this would have sent me into a spiral of panic and reactivity, but something was different this time. Through my practice of mindfulness and studying Buddhist teachings, I had learned to create what the ancient texts call a gap, a small space between stimulus and response. In that gap, I found power. Instead of immediately reacting to the chaos, I was able to pause, breathe, and respond with clarity. The result? Not only did we solve the crisis, but my team actually grew stronger through the experience. This brings us to a crucial understanding that the Buddha emphasized: you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. You see, developing calmness isn't about suppressing emotions or forcing yourself to be peaceful. It's about cultivating a gentle, compassionate relationship with your own mind. Think of calmness as a muscle that grows stronger with practice. Just as you wouldn't expect to lift heavy weights without training, you can't expect to maintain composure in life's storms without developing your inner strength. The good news is that every moment presents an opportunity for practice. One of the most profound teachings from Buddhism is the concept of remaining like a log. As the ancient master Atisha explained, when you encounter challenging people or situations, remain like a log. This doesn't mean being inactive or unresponsive. Rather, it means maintaining your center while consciously choosing your response. Instead of automatically reacting, consider this. Have you ever noticed how some leaders seem to become calmer as the stakes get higher? This isn't coincidental. They've learned what Buddhist philosophy has been teaching for millennia: that true power lies not in controlling external circumstances, but in mastering our internal response to them. As the Buddha taught, though one may conquer 1,000 times 1,000 men in battle, yet he indeed is the noblest victor who conquers himself. But here's what's really interesting. The calmer you become, the more you realize that calmness itself is a form of power. It's like having a superpower that allows you to see through the chaos and confusion that often clouds our judgment. The ancient Buddhist texts compare it to being like the still surface of a lake, reflecting reality exactly as it is, without distortion. Let me share another powerful quote from the Buddhist tradition. The master Shantideva wrote, "If you can solve your problem, then what is the need of worrying? If you cannot solve it, then what is the use of worrying?" This perfectly captures the practical wisdom of maintaining calmness. Worry and anxiety don't add anything productive to our situation. They only cloud our judgment and drain our energy. In our modern world, this teaching is more relevant than ever. We're constantly bombarded with information, notifications, and demands for our attention. The ability to maintain inner peace amid this chaos isn't just a nice-to-have skill. It's becoming essential for our mental and emotional well-being. As the Buddha said, "Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment." Think about the most challenging situations you've faced in your life. Looking back, would you have handled them differently if you had been calmer? Most of us would say yes. The beauty is that we can start developing this capacity right now. Every breath, every moment, every interaction is an opportunity to practice maintaining our center. The power of calmness extends far beyond our individual experience. When we maintain our composure, we create a ripple effect that influences everyone around us. In meetings, in family situations, in any group dynamic, the calmest person often becomes the natural leader, the one others look to for guidance and stability. Now let's explore something truly transformative: the practical steps you can take to develop this calm power in your own life. The Buddha taught that transformation doesn't happen overnight but through consistent mindful practice. As he said, "Drop by drop is the water pot filled. Likewise, the wise man gathering it little by little fills himself with good." Let's start with a fundamental practice that you can begin implementing right now. The ancient Buddhist texts speak of mindful breathing as the foundation of inner peace. But here's what's fascinating. This isn't just about taking deep breaths when you're stressed. It's about developing a constant awareness of your breath as an anchor to the present moment. Imagine your mind as a sky and your thoughts as clouds. The sky itself, vast, spacious, and unchanging, represents your natural state of calmness. The clouds, your thoughts, emotions, and reactions, may come and go, but they don't change the fundamental nature of the sky. This is what the Buddhist master Mingyur Rinpoche meant when he said, "Awareness is like the sky. Thoughts are like clouds." Here's a practical technique that has helped countless practitioners over the centuries. When you find yourself in a challenging situation, instead of immediately reacting, take 3 conscious breaths. During these breaths, feel your feet firmly planted on the ground. Notice the sensations in your body. This simple practice, which takes less than 30 seconds, can create that crucial gap between stimulus and response that we talked about earlier. But developing calmness isn't just about what we do in challenging moments. It's about cultivating a different relationship with life itself. The Buddha taught that much of our suffering comes from our resistance to what is. As he said, "What you are is what you have been. What you'll be is what you do now." Think about how this applies to your daily life. When you're stuck in traffic, instead of resisting the situation, you can choose to embrace it as an opportunity for practice. When someone criticizes you, instead of immediately becoming defensive, you can pause and respond from a place of clarity. This is what real power looks like. Not the power to control external circumstances, but the power to choose your response to them. One of my favorite Buddhist stories illustrates this perfectly. A student asked his teacher, "Master, how do you maintain such peace when others are trying to provoke you?" The teacher replied, "If someone offers you a gift and you don't accept it, who does the gift belong to?" The student said, "The giver." The teacher smiled and said, "The same is true of anger, criticism, and negativity." This teaching reminds us that we have the power to choose what we let affect our inner state. As the great master Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche taught, the nature of mind is like space. It encompasses everything. When we truly understand this, we realize that maintaining calmness isn't about controlling our environment. It's about expanding our capacity to remain centered regardless of what's happening around us. Let's talk about another practical aspect of developing calm power, our relationship with technology and information. In our digital age, we're constantly bombarded with notifications, news, and social media updates. The Buddhist teaching of guarding the sense doors becomes incredibly relevant here. This doesn't mean disconnecting completely, but rather being mindful of what we allow to enter our awareness. Consider implementing what I call mindful boundaries, specific times during the day when you completely disconnect from digital distractions. Use these periods to practice being present, whether you're eating, walking, or simply sitting quietly. As the Buddha taught, just as a flower grows in mud, we can transform our difficulties into sources of learning and growth. Here's another powerful practice. Start your day with intention rather than reaction. Instead of immediately checking your phone when you wake up, take a few moments to sit quietly and set your intention for the day. This simple practice can create a foundation of calmness that carries through your entire day. Remember, the goal isn't to never feel stressed or anxious. That's not realistic or even desirable. The goal is to develop the capacity to maintain your center even when these emotions arise. As the Buddhist teaching goes, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. Let me share one of the most profound insights from Buddhist philosophy that brings everything we've discussed together. The Buddha taught that all that we are is the result of what we have thought. This means that our state of mind isn't just a passive response to our environment. It's a power we can actively cultivate. Think about the most influential people in your life. Chances are they possess this quality of calm power we've been discussing. They don't need to raise their voice to be heard. They don't need to assert their authority to be respected. Their very presence creates a sense of stability and trust. As the Buddhist master Thich Nhat Hanh beautifully expressed, breathing in, I calm body and mind. Breathing out, I smile. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is the only moment. But here's what's really exciting. This quality isn't some rare gift that only a few people possess. It's a capacity that exists within each of us, waiting to be developed. The ancient texts speak of this as our Buddha nature, our innate potential for wisdom, compassion, and yes, calm power. Let's bring this down to earth with some practical wisdom. When you find yourself in a heated argument, remember that the person who maintains their composure usually has the upper hand. Not because they're trying to dominate, but because their calmness allows them to see more clearly and respond more effectively. As the Buddha said, hatred never ceases by hatred, but by love alone is healed. Consider how this applies in professional settings. In a world where everyone is trying to speak louder than everyone else, the power of calm presence becomes even more remarkable. It's like having a secret advantage. While others are caught up in the drama of the moment, you're able to maintain perspective and make better decisions. But perhaps the most beautiful aspect of developing calm power is how it affects our relationships. When we're centered and peaceful, we naturally create a space where others feel safe to be themselves. We become like a sturdy tree offering shade. Our presence itself becomes a source of comfort and stability for others. The Buddhist tradition offers a powerful metaphor for this. They speak of the mind as being like a clear mirror. When it's calm and undisturbed, it reflects reality perfectly. When it's agitated, everything appears distorted. This is why developing calmness isn't just about feeling better. It's about seeing better, understanding better, and ultimately, living better. As we wrap up this exploration of calmness as power, I want to leave you with a challenge. For the next week, commit to practicing what we've discussed. Start each day with 3 mindful breaths. When you feel yourself getting caught up in stress or anxiety, remember the sky and clouds metaphor. Create those mindful boundaries we talked about. Remember, as the Buddha taught, each morning we are born again. What we do today is what matters most. Every moment is a new opportunity to choose calmness over reactivity, clarity over confusion, peace over turmoil. This is the true path to power. Not the kind of power that dominates others, but the kind that uplifts and inspires. And here's something crucial to remember. You don't have to wait until you feel completely peaceful to start experiencing the benefits of this practice. Even small moments of calmness can create significant shifts in your life. As the ancient saying goes, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Before we close, I want to share one final thought from the Buddhist tradition that I find particularly inspiring. The Master Shantideva wrote, "All the suffering in the world comes from seeking pleasure for oneself. All the happiness in the world comes from seeking pleasure for others." When we develop calm power, we're not just doing it for ourselves. We're contributing to the peace and well-being of everyone around us. So as you go forward from this video, remember that true power doesn't shout. It resonates. It doesn't dominate. It influences. It doesn't force. It flows. Like a deep river, it moves with quiet strength, carrying everything in its path not through force but through its natural power. Thank you for staying with me through this exploration of calmness as power. If you found value in these insights, please share this video with someone who might benefit from it. And remember, in the words of the Buddha, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. Until next time, may you discover the incredible power of your own inner calmness.